Are you sick of feeling stuck in the cycle of overdrinking and regret? Wondering if your anxiety or depression is tied to your drinking? I get it. I've been there. I was a weekend binge drinker, stuck in the cycle of detoxing all week, only to retox every weekend, living completely out of alignment with my values. And as a personal trainer who cared deeply about health and wellness, that disconnect ran deep. I'm Maureen Benkovich, founder of Sober Fit Chick Coaching, and you're listening to Sober Fit Life. So if you're ready to ditch the hangovers and finally feel your best, physically, mentally, and emotionally, you're in the right place. Get inspired by real stories from people who have regained their energy and joy by kicking alcohol to the curb. Plus, hear from health and wellness experts who share practical tips and science-backed insights. They will help you thrive alcohol-free and build a life that feels strong and in line with your values from the inside out. Ready for a fresh start? Let's get sober fit. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI. Welcome to my Sober Fit Life podcast. This is my very first interview, and it's with me. So I thought maybe you all would like to hear how I came about starting this podcast. And I thought it would be really fun to have my friend, mentor, and business coach, Wendy McCallum, on to interview me so it wouldn't just be a monologue. So I hope you'll enjoy this time and hearing about Sober Fit Life. And here's Wendy to interview me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today, Maureen. I believe in this podcast. I believe in you. I know a lot about your story personally, and I know about your story as a coach. And I was so excited when you were starting this podcast. And I have so many things that I want to talk about. We could probably talk for 2 hours, but I'm going to try to keep it. I'm going to try to keep it brief, and start with, why did you decide to start this podcast? So you've been coaching for a while. What was the motivation behind starting My Sober Fit Life?
So I've always been into fitness. I was a fitness trainer, a fitness competitor. I had my own Pilates personal training studio. Fitness has been a big part of my life, but also mental fitness has been a big part of my life. And really in the last few years, since removing alcohol, I started to understand how important it is to take care of your mental health, just like you do your physical health. And that also goes along with emotional health. So they really all work together, your physical, mental, and emotional. So to me, Sober Fit Life is all encompassing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had actually lots of conversations about that on the business side of things when you were talking about starting this podcast, and we were working on kind of the niche and the focus of the podcast, talking about the name and incorporating the word fit into it, because that's always been part of your personal brand as a coach. And you were really worried that incorporating the word fit would have people assuming that this podcast was all about physical fitness. And it was really important to you that people listen to this podcast because they were interested and curious about other aspects of their fitness.
Yes, because when I look back on my past and when I was drinking and I was fit, I looked from the outside, looking in, you would think, I've got everything going for me. I'm eating clean, I'm teaching classes, I'm training other people, I'm fit physically. But mentally, what was going on the inside was a whole nother story. And eventually, no matter what it looks like on the outside, you're going to crumble if the inside you're not taking care of your mental health. And of course, alcohol was not helping me in any way with my mental or physical fitness.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because I think this is really common. I certainly hear this a lot as a coach who also coaches in the alcohol sphere. I hear, I have women who come to me and say really similar things, like I'm doing all of the right things. And oftentimes women will say like, this is my only vice. Don't take this away from me. I'm like perfect everywhere else. I'm really taking care of myself. So I think this is going to resonate with your listeners, your story around this, because it is so common. Tell us what that looked like. What did your life with alcohol look like in terms of how were you trying, like, how did you even make that work? Because you were so fit, I'm putting that in air quotes, physically, doing all of the things, doing these like really challenging workouts, on the regular, and getting involved in like very challenging fitness events, like obstacle courses and training other people and all the rest of it. But um, still managing to keep alcohol in your life. I would love it if you would share a little bit about how you did that and what that looked like.
Well, it's actually a very common phenomenon in the fitness world, and I call it the detox retox cycle. And so most people who are really conscious, they're drinking their green drinks, their smoothies, their protein, they're really watching their health in every other way. They're working out, but we're drinking, right? And we're drinking. A lot of fitness people will not drink during the week. This is what I did, and binge on the weekends. So, and I'm thinking, well, I'll just sweat it out starting on Monday and I'll punish myself with my workouts and I'll rehydrate. And then, Thursday comes around and I do it all again. But really that whole cycle is so bad. So you think you're detoxing, but that is not what is really happening, actually, as you know.
Yeah. And so how long did this go on for, this cycle? Like when we're talking about I had a very long and illustrious drinking career that spanned decades. What was it like for you? How long were you able to do this detox to retox thing and keep your head above water?
Well, as I said, there are a lot of fitness instructors who are doing it. They're teaching classes hungover. So when I'm in my late 20s, I can actually do this.
Right.
My metabolism is really working at a high rate, and I'm kind of caught up in what everybody else is doing. But at the same time, I'm also dealing with an inner struggle of depression and grief. And I will go into this more in other podcasts deeper, but I was childless, not by choice. I couldn't have children. And that became a real struggle for me. And I hid it, how much I was really struggling, how sad I really was. And I hid behind this camouflage mask of the drinking party girl, workout person who had it all together. But really inside I was crumbling. So I could keep up that facade probably in my later 20s, early 30s, but then it really started to fall apart as the depression increased and the anxiety increased, and I wasn't actually grieving, right? I wasn't moving through the grief process. I was staying stuck in grief of who am I without children? Look at all my friends are growing their families. And I was really staying stuck. But the key thing to know is when you're drinking and you combine it with someone who has depression or anxiety and you're on antidepressants, this is a very dangerous combination. And it was exacerbating my depression and anxiety and making the antidepressants basically ineffective. And so I was actually hurting myself. Even though I was thinking, I'm going to drink because I'm going to feel better. Well, that's only for a very short time. And then the cumulative ramifications of drinking like that every weekend just caught up to me. And I really just broke down.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me how we all know rationally and intuitively, I think, that alcohol is a depressant, but we don't make this connect. Like there's just a disconnect here from a social perspective. We just disconnect this and see it as a coping tool that actually helps us with sadness and depression and grief. And what you're saying is that it was just making everything worse for you. Was there like a turning point? Was there something? I mean, I know people ask me this all the time about my experience as a drinker. Was there a moment, something that sealed the deal for you where you thought, I have got to change this? This is not working for me anymore. And what did that look like if it was there?
Yeah, I would go into these deep depressive episodes and I could hide because I didn't have children. I wasn't taking my kids to the school. I wasn't doing what everybody else was doing. So I'd hide for a week. And then, like I said, drink on the weekends. And sometimes I would come out of these cycles, but sometimes I wouldn't. And it would get pretty dark and very, very depressive. And I just realized I was in trouble. I was going down a very dark path, and I started to put it together that after every time I binge on a weekend, I go way down in my depression and anxiety and dark thoughts. And I started looking it up. And I started looking up alcohol-induced anxiety, alcohol-induced depression. And there is so much information out there. It's just we're not hearing it because all we're hearing is what we're marketed to, what we see. This is what you do if you have a rough day. This is what everybody on television is doing. So, I'm buying into all that. But then I started to put the pieces together and realize how much alcohol was actually hurting me. So I came to a point where I was in a really low, dark place, and it was scary. And I thought, I got to stop drinking. I tried a number of times on my own. And I even did, like extreme fitness contests where I wouldn't drink for 6 and 8 months at a time. But I never looked at the inside, what was going on. I never looked at the grief, the depression, and the anxiety. I just went right back to drinking when the contests were over. So I knew I needed to do something different, and something that would make alcohol no longer, center stage in my life.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember that moment? Like, I can distinctly remember sitting in a chair with a glass of wine in my hand and thinking, like, I don't even like this anymore, but I don't know how to stop or change it. Do you remember what it felt like to be stuck?
Yeah. I remember that moment because it was actually in September, and I was going out to lunch with friends, and our lunches would turn into dinners. And I literally wrote in my journal, because I was at this time trying to cut back, and I wrote, "Dear God, please let me drink 2 white wine spritzers and not drink martinis. I really want my friends to support me. I'm going to talk to them about it at lunch." So we go to lunch, and I tell my friends, they're like, "Well, good luck to you. I'm having a martini." They both order. I'm like, "Yeah, screw it." So I had a martini, came home smashed again that night. My husband was upset. He's like, "What, why can't you just have 2? And woke up at 3 a.m, like I always would, extremely anxious. I literally got out of the bed, got on the floor on my knees, and said, "God, I can't do this without you. I have tried and tried, and I'm not going to make it if I don't stop this. And so I need your help." And then a coaching program that I've been looking into, I signed up the next day. And so that was the last day I drank. That was September 14th. So this September 14th, it'll be 3 years since I've had alcohol. But I waited 2 weeks till this coaching program I signed up for started. So I was basically white knuckling it, but I was determined, and I just journaled and wrote and felt my feelings for the first time, right? Because I've been all these years numbing my feelings, numbing all the things that were always boiling up inside of me. I just would suppress them. So I just let it all out. And that was actually a really healthy thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was your experience with the other side? Like, how did that, when you went through that and you felt the emotions, the reason I'm sort of thinking back to what you said about how we're sold this bill of goods that in order to be happy, we need to drink. Like, drinking is just part of being a happy, beautiful, successful, fun person. And everybody who can control alcohol, everyone who is those things can control alcohol. And then when you're the person who feels like you can't control it, feels like it's your fault. And it feels like you can't be happy without it, right? And there's this feeling like we dread the idea of changing our relationship with alcohol or drinking less because we think that actually we'll be more depressed and sadder and worse off if we remove this substance from our life. I'm just curious as to what your experience was on the other side. Once you took a break from alcohol and started doing all of this work, what changed in terms of your own mental health, your own emotional health?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I really dreaded it, because I had built my identity around this party girl. Hey, come party with me when you get a babysitter, because I'm living a carefree life and look how happy I am over here. So I didn't know who I was going to be without being this party girl that really I had trained my friends to come to expect. So it was pretty scary when I said to my friends who I typically partied with, "Listen, I'm not going to drink anymore." And I got some support. I got the usual, like, "What, are you kidding me? Come on, it's no big deal. You're not that bad. We all have fun." But I knew I was determined. I had to make a change for my mental health. But what I've seen on the other side of alcohol has been incredible. The way I explain it to my clients is like, getting rid of the alcohol is just that first big domino. And you have to knock that one over. And then there's all these other dominoes that then you can work on with a clear head. So I could actually, for the first time, I grieved. I grieved the loss of not being a mother during holidays. It really hit me. It was actually in year 2 of no alcohol. And I really felt it, and it hurt. And it sucked, but that's grieving. But I literally moved through it. And I found a support group called the Childless Collective, which again, I'll talk about on this podcast later. But I was taking action now. I was doing things. When I was drinking, I would think about all the things I wanted to do and the dreams I had, but I didn't act on any of them. I was too tired, too busy being hungover and trying to, recover during the week and act like I had it all together. That's exhausting. So, as soon as I was in a coaching program, and about 2 months into it, I'd stopped drinking. I was like, I'm done. That's all I needed to understand was the physiology, the chemistry of alcohol. It's addictive. It's not my fault, but I can change it. Then I was empowered. And then the next step, of course, is I'm like, I want to help other people understand this. I've always been a coach of sorts as a trainer, and it just seemed like a natural step. And I wanted to help educate other people to know it's not their fault. This is actually a very dangerous, addictive drug that we are all drinking in our alcohol-saturated society. And I want to help people learn the truth so they can become free. So to really have a passion, I haven't had a passion for years. I was so stuck on who am I without being a mother? I couldn't imagine anything else. So now I have a real passion for helping other people, and it's in alignment with my values. All that drinking I was doing and getting wasted on the weekends, that was not in alignment with my values. And that's another reason why it felt so bad. I was doing something just, really was out of integrity with myself. So now I feel very much in integrity with myself, and I have a mission and a purpose, and it makes me get up every day and want to do new things. And I meet wonderful people like you and all my other coach friends all over the world who are all trying to inspire people in their various areas of coaching. So it's really just opened up a whole new chapter of life for me, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I love that. That's that post-alcohol transformation. That's just like the most special thing to see. I love what you said earlier. I want to spend a minute on it and just get your thoughts on this, because I think it's important for your listeners to understand from your story and for their own experiences, and whatever, their journey, that taking alcohol out of the picture doesn't solve all your problems, and it doesn't eliminate all your anxiety and depression. I've certainly have met people for whom it has had a radical impact on their anxiety or their depression. But what it does do, I think we probably can both agree, is that it puts you in so much better of a position to take the next steps and to do whatever the next thing is that's going to be helpful for you in terms of getting better and improving those things. Do you first of all, do you agree with that? And did you notice, even though obviously you had lots of big emotions and things to process and still had that your mental health was still complicated after you left alcohol behind, did you notice an immediate improvement in like your baseline, either around the anxiety or the depression? I mean, sort of like, when you were waking up before, when you were still drinking, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was your mood versus afterwards? And what was your anxiety before and after?
Well, yeah, sure. Because I was waking up at 3 a.m, my heart racing, and I did it again. And why, beating myself up and not understanding also the chemical reaction that was going on in my body because alcohol and what your body does to try to get rid of it. But now I remember in the first few months, it could take 10, 20 days, but I started sleeping better. And that was amazing. I'm like, wow, I slept through the night. That was incredible. And so, of course, if you sleep better, you're less irritable and cranky. And I also had really destroyed my gut from drinking. And so over time, my gut was healing. So that was starting to feel better. And my skin was looking better. I didn't really drop weight. Like a lot of people come to me like, I want to lose weight and I'm going to stop drinking. That might be a side effect. It might not be a side effect, right? If you're already a person who's working out, you might lose a few pounds and you might lose a lot. I don't like to make that promise to people, but it's certainly, you have more energy to really enjoy your workouts, to focus on your workouts, to eat right. Now your gut is absorbing nutrients. So all of that I was, yes, definitely starting to feel better. And there was energy. I finally was having energy. I think that's the biggest change. And it's continued, well, I hit my mic. It's continued to get better, as every year. And also learning to deal with the depression with other ways to address my central nervous system. So I have a lot of tools in my toolkit now that I didn't have before. Alcohol was the tool. And now I have breath work, I have nutrition, I have yoga, which I'm doing. I was always more like lift weights, hardcore stuff. Yoga is so good for me. So I have a whole toolbox. Journaling, do it all the time. Morning routine. I didn't have a morning routine because I was hungover. That's what my morning routine was. It was like just trying to get up at the very last minute, and now I get up early. I'm an early morning person. That is amazing.
Yeah, that's so great. Talk about your experience around peace of mind. Like you said, before you made this change, you were up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., with anxiety. I'm assuming it was sort of like what it looked like for me, where you're like, why did I drink again? I promised myself I wouldn't do this. You're beating yourself up over that. You're feeling like a failure, replaying the events of the night before. You're stressed out about how you're going to cope the next day, all of that stuff. How did that, the experiment with taking alcohol out of your life, how did that impact your sort of base level of, I call it peace of mind. And I'm careful to use that word with you because I know that you had other things still that you were dealing with. And so you weren't necessarily feeling peaceful all the time. But did you notice a shift there? Because a lot of the women that I talk to about alcohol say that is the biggest like bang for your buck right out of the gate thing. It's like somehow surprising to us that we're no longer waking up at 3 a.m, beating the heck out of ourselves. But what was your experience with that?
Absolutely, because when you're drinking, and especially when I was binge drinking on the weekends, it was chaos. And chaos is not restful. So if I would black out, I would have blackouts. So talk about waking up and having extreme anxiety. Like, what did I do? What did I say? Trying to go through your phone, take a look. Oh yeah, it looks like I washed my face, and okay, I got in my pajamas, and that's a horrible feeling. And then trying to hide it, trying to act like none of that bothers you. That is not peaceful or restful at all. So now it's funny. Sometimes I still have to remind myself. I think a friend of mine came to visit. We were having a girls' weekend. She also stopped drinking. And both of us were like, should we get an Uber? And we were like, oh yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. I think sometimes you just have these realizations that life is so much more simple without drinking. And it's, simple in a peaceful, calm way, because you don't have to manage this thing that is running your life.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. I feel that. Like, I just remember it was constantly in my mind. I was constantly thinking in some way about my drinking, either what I drank the night before, whether it was bad, whether it was good. It was never good, but, and then, what I needed to do today to make up for it, which I guess is that retox to detox cycle that you're talking about. And then, whether I was going to drink tonight or not drink tonight. And if so, like, what was that going to look like? And what were the rules going to be around the drinking that I was going to be able to live with and all the rest of it? It just consumed so much mental space. I'm curious about the fitness side of things for you and what you noticed there as somebody who has been a lifelong athlete and just so, committed to physical fitness. What did you notice, if anything, in terms of your ability to perform physically after leaving alcohol behind?
Yes, because I would show up to my workouts. I paid a trainer, a guy I've been with forever. He's a fabulous trainer. He's going to be on my podcast. And I would sometimes show up hungover. He would know it. It would be like the elephant in the room that we couldn't talk about. And I would just be putting in the motions. I wasn't really trying to get the most out of flexing my muscles or work out hard. I just was like, check the box. At least I can say I showed up at my workout. That's so much different now, where I'm like, okay, we have goals. We have long-term goals. This is what we're working on this week. I'm going to try to get better. Instead of just surviving and checking that box, I'm actually, again, with a purpose. I'm working out with a purpose. I'm going to be 60. I want to be strong. I want my bones to be strong. I want my muscles to be strong. So I'm focused, and I mean in a good way. I'm not, crazy about it, but Before it was just check in the box, go home, maybe lay on the couch, eat something. I don't do that anymore. I'm busy all day. Love my
Yeah.
workouts, get them in early. Yeah. I do
Yeah.
want to share one thing with you too. The
Sure.
difference with alcohol is we as women are sold a bill of goods that it's empowering to drink like men do. And as you know, we're on the rise. We're almost equal with where men are drinking, the levels of drinking. And just like, with cigarettes, you've come a long way, baby. The cigarette industry used to market to women about smoking and it was empowering and sexy. We bought it hook, line, and sinker with shows like Sex in the City and this is what women do who are independent. It is actually one of the most disempowering things, in my opinion, and many opinions. There's more sexual violence, there's more assaults. You are not empowered. You are not in your right mind, and you're not making choices that are benefiting you. So I feel more empowered now than I have in, I don't know, since I was a teenager.
Yeah, I
Because I was
love
drinking
that.
since I was a teenager. Yeah.
I love that so much. It's one of the things that we talk about the most in my groups is that I think I alluded to it at the beginning, that idea of like this, I'm the good girl. Everything I do is good. This is my one thing I do that's
Yes.
like not so good. Don't take it away from me. This is my act of rebellion, my one act of rebellion. And I always say, you've probably heard me say this before, but I always say, when 84% of North American adults drink and 50% of them are like, wish they drank a little less, like are questioning, or a lot less, they're questioning their drinking. Like, what on earth is rebellious about being a drinker? Like, you're actually in the majority, with the majority, going
Yes.
with the herd, listening to the marketing, believing what you're being sold and told, largely, frankly, by the patriarchs, if you're female. And so the act of rebellion for me is the conscious positive choice to be a non-drinker in a drinking society.
Yes.
So I love that so how I feel about that. I love that for so many reasons. I'm so glad you
Yeah, I
raised that.
feel like a badass.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
a badass because I don't drink and I am going against the grain, and it feels really empowering.
Yeah, it is. Really is an act of empowering. I think it's the most radical act of self-care that a woman can engage in.
I agree.
So if it is something that this is for anyone listening who is feeling like it's taking more than it's giving, doing the work, digging into this, changing your relationship with alcohol, and then doing the work that Maureen's talking about that she did post alcohol. That's been really, really hard for her. That she's going to talk about on other episodes. And I can't wait to listen to those because I know Maureen's story really well and it's so inspiring. But that work is the work that is just the most empowering and exciting. And that is such radical self-care to do that. And it just opens up your life. And I think we all think that taking alcohol out is going to somehow narrow our life and make our life smaller and reduce our choices. And we're going to have less fun and we're going to feel, like we don't fit in and all the rest of it. And really my experience certainly with it has been, it's just opened so many things up. Yeah. That's great.
And that's why I want to do Sober Fit Life, because I want to bring this, to my community, to women, to friends, and everybody, that actually, it's so empowering to choose not to drink alcohol. And you don't have to label it, you don't have to judge it. But the more you learn about the science of it, and I love the science of it, the brain chemistry, the more you learn that you actually can make changes and you can make habit change and you can choose something different. That's, again, empowering. And that's what I want to bring to my audience.
And what would you say if there's somebody listening and they're thinking like, I don't know if it's that bad. I'm not sure if, or I don't think I'm an alcoholic. What would you say? And so I'm not sure whether it's worth like doing the work or trying to take a break or.
Yeah. Again, because we've been sold a bill of goods that unless you are an end stage drinker who needs medical intervention and we'll call you an alcoholic, then why would you possibly need to look at your drinking? You're fine. But if you are questioning it and you're wondering, I wonder if my life would be better without alcohol. I wonder if it's no longer serving me. That's enough for you to know that maybe I should get curious and look into taking a break. A guided break with a coach, I think, is fabulous because you do the work, right? I talked to you about times when I didn't drink for 6 and 8 months, but I didn't take a look at why I drank and all the things I was trying to cover up. So taking a break and really kind of thinking about why you drink and learning the truth about, how it truly does affect your brain chemistry. We're all concerned about getting older and aging and our gray matter.
Mhm.
Alcohol hurts us. Alcohol is really dangerous. So when you start to learn things like that, then you can make a choice. And again, not to beat the dead horse, but that's empowering to make a choice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, just leave some room for the possibility that maybe some of the things that you think about what it's going to be like on the other side are wrong, and just get curious with it. And I think this podcast is such a great place for people to indulge in that curiosity. They're going to learn things from you every week. They're going to hear different people's stories. They're going to get different perspectives and lenses on this. And they're going to go away with some really practical strategies and tools that they can start using in their own life to start, finding out for themselves whether this thing actually is the right thing for them and whether they want to stay where they are, or they want to make change. So I applaud you for doing this podcast and for all the work that you do and for sharing this part of your story today. I know it was just like a quick overview of your story, and you're going to be talking more, I'm sure, as you go forward about your drinking story, but not more importantly, but for me, I just think it's the piece of your story that just makes you so unique and such an amazing coach and human being. And that is your very, very hard experiences over the last couple of decades around being childless, not by choice. And I have a personal story. I understand some of what you have felt. And so I have like a special soft spot for this as an area that we need to be talking about more as women. And I love how you have really, over the course of the last year, realized like the thing that I want to be talking to people about is not just their physical fitness, it's their mental fitness and their emotional fitness and their physical fitness together, because all three of those things are what make us feel truly well. And that you're going to be addressing those issues on the podcast as you go forward too. I think it's so terrific.
The mind-body connection is real and it's strong. And so you really can't address one without the other. And not enough people are talking about depression because we feel shame around that. And we try to hide it. And believe me, anybody who's depressed and listening out there, you're amazing at hiding it. We all are. So I'm honest about it. I'll share my stories. Other people will share their stories to know that, you can get help. You can choose something other than alcohol, and it's going to help you so much in the long run. So I hope to inspire people to take a look at that and take care of their mental as well as their physical health.
Well, I have absolutely no doubt that you will continue to do that. You're already doing that. And I am so appreciative of you and just honored to be on here and be able to interview you about your story. Hopefully I did you proud and there's nothing that I missed. Is there anything I missed that you want to talk about?
No, you made it so much easier to tell parts of my story and introduce this podcast. And I'm going to have Wendy on at another time to share what she does, because she's amazing and teaches and shares with other people how to coach. And that is such a skill. And it's something you really need guidance. And Wendy's my mentor. And I'm so appreciative you were here and took the time today to interview me. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thanks, Maureen.
Thanks, Wendy. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? Soberfitchick.com/MI.